Namaskar. Welcome to the part 4 of the lesson number 8, explanations on the third step and fourth step in method of analysis. In the previous parts, we discussed about the step number 1 and step number 2, in which we studied the first level planet signification and Starlord and Starlord of the Starlord signification and their combined level study. In this part, we are going to discuss in step number 3 analysis, we are going to discuss the sublord and starlord of the sublords significations and their combined study. And in step number 4, we will be discussing the combined level study of all the levels from planet up to the starlord of the sublord. Now, let us first study the step number 3. Studying the self-signification of the result level planets. What are result? Sublord and starlord of the sublord. First, let us study the sublord significations. Studying the self-signification of the sublord, that is third level planet. Study the self-signification of the sublord as followed for the first planet under step number 1. It means what? Studying the self-signification of any level as we discussed under the step number 1 for the first planet. By this study, we can find if the sublord planet, if it is a favorable planet or unfavorable planet or mixed planet for the particular event. Suppose if that sublord is a favorable key planet, it is always good for the favorable result. If the sublord is a free planet, its strength is significant because sublord, as you are aware, that is the result-giving planet. If the sublord planet it is favorable, what planet and starlord are giving, that sublord also will promising that in giving the good result. If the sublord is not good, sublord is unfavorable, the result is going to be unfavorable. This is a basic for, this is, we have to keep this one as a basic understanding. Okay, now once we studied the sublord, we have to do the starlord and sublord combined study. How to do that? In the step number 3 and 2, we did the planet and starlord's signification and their combined level study. Here, we have to do the starlord and sublord's combined level study. Please follow the same rules discussed under combined level study. Find if starlord and sublord are forming favorable house grouping or unfavorable house grouping. It means what? Simply saying that whatever starlord is signifying, whether sublord is further supporting to that starlord significations, whether favorable or unfavorable, that we have to check. Or sublord is not supporting to the starlord significations also, we have to check. So it means this sublord can further increase or decrease the favorable or unfavorable strength of the starlord. I hope you have understood. I will explain this one with an example. You can see here a few tables of EPS given. Let us check the Mars planet. So these 3 levels, planet, starlord and starlord of the starlord, we have studied in the previous parts. Step 1 and step 2. This is step 3. Step 3 is this one. Sublord planet and starlord of the sublord. Right? So in that, now we are talking about only the sublord. Starlord of the sublord, we are going to discuss later. The step number 3, in that, first we have to check the what sublord is signifying. Sublord, self-signification of the sublord, you check 9th lord occupying 5th house, 3, 7, 11, 3, 5, 9, 11 for the event of marriage, This ninth lord is having very good favorable house grouping. It is also having 10th lord, but it is not being further supported. Second planet Ketu having 9th house and unfavorable obstacle causing houses in CST and CSL. It is giving some weakness or obstacles to the favorable grouping of the Saturn. Still Saturn is favorable key planet because of the very good house grouping. Now, Starlord and Sublord's combined level study. What is Starlord? Starlord is Sun. Look at Starlord significations 4, 1, 5, 1, 9, and 7. It is further supported by the Sublord or not? Yes. 4, 1, 5, 9, 7. And Sublord is favorable. So Starlord is further supported by favorable grouping of houses. So that is good. That way we have to keep it in mind. And you can see in this next example, Sun planet, that Starlord is Moon, Sublord is Mercury. Sublord Mercury is 2, 5, and 2 is good, and Starlord is 3, 1, 1, and 1. So it is also being supported by the Sublord. Starlord is further supported by the Sublord. You can see here in this example, you can see that Mercury planet, Mercury Starlord is Rahu. Rahu occupying third house, 2-6 Starlord and 2-6 Sublord. So this is having some unfavorable houses for the marriage. But you can see in the Sublord, 8th Lord, 11th Lord occupying 5th house, and 8 and 12 cuspal Sublord. So this is also mixed. This is also mixed. Now what happens? Favorable houses are getting some support through the Sublord, and unfavorable 6 and 6 also, 6th Sublord. It is in the Sublord, Sublord, 6th Sublord Rahu. Also, through the Sublord planet Jupiter, 8 and 8 and 12. So, this is unfavorable houses also further supported and forming good unfavorable house grouping. So, weakness of the Rahu, unfavorable houses of the Rahu is further supported by the Jupiter's unfavorable grouping, especially with the 8 and 12 houses. So unfavorable houses increased. Here favorable supports are increased. Here also favorable, that significations are increased by the star sublord. I hope you would have understood. In this case of Saturn, you can see Star Lord Sun is 4th Lord occupying Lagna, 5, 9 Star Lord, and 7 Sublord is good. And look at the Sublord 1, 6, 1, and 4. This is mixed significator because 1 and 1 is good, 6th Lord and 4th Sublord, it is having some weakness. So that favorable houses of the Sun is getting some weakness through the Sublord. I hope you have understood. So, Starlord and Sublord's combined level, when we are going to study whether Sublord is supporting to the Starlord significations, favorable is further supported or unfavorable is supported, we have to check. I hope you have understood. Here, one more thing also we have to keep it in mind. Starlord of the Starlord and Sublord. What is that? You know that I have been talking about Starlord and Sublord only, combined level, because this is the effect and the result. Starlord of the Starlord is a secondary level to the Starlord. So that combined level study we studied in the previous step. It means what? The Starlord's strength are being further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord or not. It means whether Starlord of the Starlord is further increasing the strength of the Starlord planet or reducing the strength of the Starlord of that planet. So that way we have to check the Starlord of the Starlord. Now, when the Starlord is not further supported by the Starlord of the Starlord, it means that Starlord planet strength is getting reduced. Suppose the Sublord is also unfavorable, not supportive. What will happen? The star lord of the star lord and sublord will both will be unfavorable. In this case, it is favorable only. For example, it is having, say, 4th house, 10th house, 12th house. Suppose it is having in its self-significations, the star lord of the star lord also having unfavorable. Sublord is also unfavorable. So that, indirectly the two consequent levels are having unfavorable. So the star lord's favorable is reduced by the star lord of the star lord, and sublord also it is having unfavorable. So two levels are unfavorable. The intensity of the unfavorable strength is going to be more. In this case, suppose Mercury is having unfavorable house grouping. If you study the star lord and the sublord signification, favorable significations will not be supported by the sublord. That itself is weak. Now, apart from that, star lord is already not supported by the star lord or the star lord, and sublord also not supportive. So that star lord significations are further reduced and not supported by the star lord or the star lord and sublord. I hope you have understood. When two consequent levels are unfavorable or favorable, that intensity of the strength is going to be more. In this case, for example, you can see star lord is reduced by the sublord, but sublord is favorable. So star lord and sublord are favorable. So now star lord of the star lord is not supported by the sublord. So that way the unfavorable strength is reduced by the sublord. Now you can see in this case, star lord is good and star lord of the star lord also favorable and sublord is mixed. What happened? Star lord and star lord of the star lord, already in the previous step we have discussed, it is supportive despite some weakness to the second planet. Now the star lord and sublord connection, when you are checking, these planet favorable are getting reduced by some mixed signification of the sublord. Since the star lord of the star lord is not unfavorable, this unfavorable strength will be little bit reduced. I hope you have understood. Here you can see in this Mercury planet, star lord is having weakness and sublord also having weakness. Unfavorable grouping also formed. So it is star lord and sublord are, they are supporting to each other, forming unfavorable grouping for the unfavorable houses for the event. But you can see star lord of the star lord, which is reducing the unfavorable strength of the Rahu. Now, Rahu's unfavorable are reduced by the star lord of the star lord. So that way, that unfavorable strength is reduced. Now that sublord is having mixed. So what it indicates, the combined levels are unfavorable more because of the star lord of the star lord is having some strength. The unfavorable strength will be getting reduced. If you take star lord of the star lord and sublord, star lord of the star lord is favorable and star lord sublord is mixed. It means favorable strength of the star lord is not further supported. But because of the star lord is favorable, that star lord and sublord's unfavorable combination strength is getting reduced. So that way, finding the signification of the star lord and also sublord, whether both are, having favorable houses, so that favorable strength is going to be increased. If both are unfavorable strength is going to be increased. If star lord is favorable, sublord is unfavorable, that unfavorable strength will little increase. I hope you have understood. Now, we have discussed about the sublord only in the result. As you are aware, sublord planet will have some impact through the star lord of the sublord. So now we are going to study the self-signification of the star lord of the sublord. That is the fourth level planet. The same way we have to study the self-signification of the star lord of the sublord following the step number 1. And we have to check whether Starlord or the Sublord is favorable or unfavorable or mixed for the event. Okay, next what we have to do? We have to do the combined study of Sublord and Starlord or the Sublord. So you can see Sublord and Starlord or the Sublord. We have to study like this. It means what? We are trying to do each level's combined level study so that, whether each level getting supports or at each level, the previous level strength is getting reduced or increased. For that only, we are taking this much steps. Please understand, when we are really doing, when you are, you have learned well and start doing the analysis, you can do all these 3 steps or 4 steps or whatever the steps we are going to talk about. You can do it in at your convenience, but you have to follow all the steps. Not required that you have to complete that 4th step, then only you go to the 5th step and all. You can combine 3, 4, 5, because everything within this table only. In order to avoid any sort of steps in combined study, I am making these steps for that, so that you will understand that importance, and once you are get used to that, you can follow according to your convenience. But we should not miss any step. Okay. Now we are coming to that Sublord and Starlord of the Sublord. Sublord and Starlord of the Sublord. Now you can see in this planet Saturn is favorable, and Starlord of the Sublord is also favorable. This is good. Then here Mercury and Starlord of the Sublord is Rahu. Mercury is favorable, and Rahu, Mercury Starlord of the Starlord, that is Rahu, is mixed planet. So favorable strength are supported to some extent, but unfavorable houses are also present, but not detrimental. But still, it is reducing the strength of that Mercury. Suppose in case instead of Rahu, it is having favorable houses, Mercury will become more stronger because it will get the support through its star-lord planet. Now we can see Venus. Venus is 1, 6, 1 and 4. This is having mixed signification. The two, but being a Lagna lord and occupying Lagna, then we have to be careful, as we said. You can see that Venus in the star of Mars, that is 7th lord. 12th lord occupying 12th house, 10th house. These groupings are not good. 6 will get support of these 12, 12 and 10. So, and 4 also will get the support. So, unfavorable grouping also there. More unfavorable grouping, along with that 1, 1 and 7 favorable grouping also there, but unfavorable grouping on the higher side. Suppose instead of Mars, it is having such unfavorable grouping, it is having good favorable grouping, that unfavorable signification of the Venus will be reduced. When compared to this is unfavorable or increased when the star-lord of the sublord is favorable houses are present, the sublords unfavorable will not be supported. I hope you have understood. Here I can see Jupiter. I said Jupiter was 8th lord and 8 and 12 sublord and unfavorable in general for the obstacle causing houses, and 8 and 12 cuspal sublord also it is weak, and 11th lord and 5, this is good. 11th lord and 5, it is good only because of the 8 and 12, and 8th lord and 8 and 12, it is indicating some obstacles, hurdles also. But look at the star lord of the Jupiter. That is 4th lord occupying Lagna, 5, 9 and 7th sublord. So it is a very good key planet. So the unfavorable grouping are not further supported by the star-lord of the sublord. In other words, the star-lord of the sublord is having good house grouping, which are all supporting to the 11th lord and 5th occupant Jupiter with a favorable grouping. So favorable strength are increased, unfavorable strength are not further increased. So sublord planet strength, how much is increased or decreased by the star-lord of the sublord. So that way, that also we can find whether the sublord strength is further increased or not. Now, I think you would have understood what effect planet sublord and star-lord combined level, what we can get it, and star-lord and sublord combinedly what it is going to give. That impact we have already studied. I think you would have understood. Suppose one thing we have to keep it in mind, when the 1, 2, and 3, they are the primary levels, planet, star lord, and sublord. If these three planets are ruled by same planet, it means what? Or not all three planets. Either one planet can be ruling more than one level. Suppose Saturn is the star of Saturn, or Saturn is the sub of Saturn, or Saturn, Sun is the star lord and also sublord. It means out of the three primary levels, same planet is ruling more than one level. We can also take the sublord into consideration as a supportive level. Planet Mercury, Rahu, star lord, and sublord is Jupiter, and sub-sublord, suppose which planet, that we can take it as a supportive tool. Please understand, because of the sub-sublord, the whatever the impact it has happened at the effect and the result level, that cannot be completely removed or increased by the sub-sublord. This sub-sublord, it will be a supportive tool, supportive level. It can add or increase or decrease the strength, whatever the impact it is getting. Because of sub-sublord, we cannot change the complete significations of the star lord and sublord. That you have to keep it in mind. I hope you would have understood this one. Now we are going to study the step number 4, studying the combined levels, house grouping of all levels, planet, star lord of the star lord, sublord, and star lord of the sublord. It is nothing but combined study of all the three steps so far we discussed. Step number 1, step number 2, and together. I mean, 3 together. It means what? If you take, for example, the planet Mars, Mars in the star of Sun, Sun in the star of Moon. Then sublord is Saturn, and Saturn in the star of Sun. So the Mars planet is step number 1. Star Lord and Star Lord of the Star Lord is step number 2. And sublord and Star Lord of the sublord is step number 3. That's what we discussed so far in the previous, parts, right? In this, now what we are going to do in the step number 4, we are going to combinedly study all these 5 levels together. Step number 1, 2, and 3 together we are going to study what the step number 1 is going to experience through the step number 2, and whether it is further supported by the step number 3 or not. We have to study from top to down the rulers of a planet is having favorable or unfavorable or mixed planet in their rulers. That is planet, star lord of the star lord, star lord and star lord of the star lord, and sublord and star lord of the sublord. It means a planet for an event, the first level planet is favorable, second level planet is also favorable or not, and 2A level planet also favorable or not, or sublord is also favorable or not. That way, each level planet, where either they are favorable or unfavorable or mixed, we have to study, so that whether the planet from the source is getting further supported or not supported at each level. So that is called step number 4. In that case, in this step, we have also should find the grouping of houses from the step number 1, that is from the planet source level. We have to study what sort of house grouping a planet is having for the particular event. Based on the grouping of houses only, the planet favorable strength also will be there. Even a planet at important levels or consequent levels can have favorable houses. But if they're having good house grouping chain, if it is forming, that is going to be more favorable. Please understand, step number 1, 2, 3, and 4, I have given in like this to make you understand the importance of each step. Does not mean that when you are going to study a planet, when you are used to this system and you have understood well the method of analysis, you can combinedly do it at once, because all the levels, all the steps are within this planet only. So we can study all levels at a stretch also, but without missing anything, any step importance, we have to do that. I hope you would have understood this one. Now, we have to check which rulers are having favorable or unfavorable planets, and if they are further supported by next level, forming favorable or unfavorable house grouping. I hope you would have understood, which I explained also. We have to check the impact of the combined levels that first level planet, source planet, is experiencing and the overall strength. It means what? The planet, source planet, that is the captain of the ship, but that is going to experience the Starlord and Sublord significations. Effect and result are experienced by the source planet. So we have to check the impact of the combined levels of the first level planet. This is the first level planet. Combined levels are these 2 and 3. These levels, what they are going to give to the Mars planet, that we have to check it. This is the source planet, because that planet only we are studying, that planet, what it is having in itself significations, whether that is being further supported by the Starlord, Sublord, and what sort of house grouping they are forming, and also overall strength we have to understand. If the first planet is cuspal lord or cuspal sublord for a favorable house, for a particular event, this combined study will indicate the destiny prospects of the particular house matters. For example, for the event of marriage, the rulers of the seventh house, that is the primary house, is seventh house. The rulers of the seventh house is cuspal lord of the seventh house, and cuspal star lord of the seventh house, and cuspal sublord of the seventh house. Out of them, normally, we'll try to take only the cuspal sublord, what it signifies of the seventh house matters, though that is the destiny giver, but destiny is not restricted with cuspal sublord of the primary house alone, but also, seventh cuspal lord also having good, impact. We have to study the cuspal lord of the seventh house also, and of course, cuspal star lord of the seventh house also will have some impact. Only when all these three are favorable, then only it is going to be very good, not just with the cuspal sublord. That we have to keep it in mind. I will be explaining in detail in the one slide, one lesson under the destiny. Now, what you are saying, cuspal lord or cuspal sublord of a favorable house. For example, for the event of marriage, Mars is seventh lord, and Saturn is seventh star lord, and Sun is seventh cuspal sublord. Just you take seventh lord and seventh sublord. They are the ruler of the seventh house. Seventh lord, that Mars is owning the seventh house. Sun is owning the authority planet for the seventh house. Their star lord and sublord, what they are going to give to the seventh lord Mars and also Sun, based on that only the impact of the destiny is going to be there. What the source planet seventh lord is experiencing self-signification, that itself is weak. Now that Mars in the nakshatra of Sun, that star lord and star lord of the star lord, if you combinedly study, that is also good. Star lord is good, and the combined level study is good, and star lord of the star lord also supporting to that, and sublord also is very good. So the seventh lord is having favorable star lord and also very good sublord. Further, last level also, that is also favoring to the sublord. So seventh lord is very good. And look at the seventh sublord. What is that? Sun. Sun is seventh sublord, also having good house grouping, but it is fourth lord. So fourth lord is not supportive, but seventh sublord is good. Now the star lord is not supporting to the fourth house. It is having 3, 1, 1, 1. 4 is not supported. Star lord is favorable, and seventh sublord in the star of yes, favorable house grouping, though it is not forming any good house grouping chain. It is not having 2 or 5 or 11. So no good house grouping chain that Sun is forming, but you can see the sublord, it is having 2, 5, and 2. So that the favorable sublord, it is getting some weakness at the star lord of the sublord, but still that sublord of the seventh house in the supportive star lord further supported by the sublord. So the star lord also getting some support from the star lord or the star lord. So that way it indicates what? Seventh sublord is promising marriage. So that way, the first level planet CL or CSL is favorable for an event, and this combined level study will indicate the destiny prospects of the housematers. You can see seventh star lord also, you can check. Seventh star lord itself is having very good house grouping. Star lord is very good house grouping. That to seventh sublord, it is forming very good house grouping chain also, and sublord is Venus is a mixed one. So 1, 6, 1, 4. So this is having some weakness, but it is not completely weaker, but it is not having 8th house or 12th house. But 1 and 1 are present, that they are supporting to the star lords. 4, 1, 5, 9, 7 are supported by the 1, 1, 1 because Lagna is playing. So that the star lord or the sublord is having some weakness and also favorable. So here star lord is having some weakness at the sublord and star lord of the sublord, but good house grouping are formed. That way, the seventh star lord is also not weak. So that way, if the planet, especially CL or CSL, is present, that favorable house for an event, the combined level study will indicate the destiny prospects for the event. Similarly, for the whatever maybe the planet is having in CL or CSL, for example, it is 12th lord. 12th lord is not further supported by any unfavorable houses and also not supported by any unfavorable houses in the sublord. So the 12th, though the planet is, a loss giving planet or unfavorable planet to the Lagna, the star level, sub level are not indicating trouble. It means what? Source is having unfavorable house, mean there will be some sort of struggle or obstacles in the initiation because source is initiation. Star Lord and Sublord. Star Lord is the execution and Sublord is the result. So that way we have to we have to follow the method of analysis. Importantly, we have to check the total combined house grouping chain from planet to the last level that we discussed. Whatever planet is having, whether that star lord or sublord, when you study all levels together, whether they are forming very good favorable house grouping or unfavorable house grouping, because many times there will be mixed significations, whether favorable or further supported at the next level with the grouping of houses or unfavorable are supported, that we have to check. Forming favorable house grouping chain with 1 to 11 houses and primary favorable house, that will be more favorable. We can, for example, you can see this planet is 7 sublord. This having that favorable grouping with 1. But if along with that 1, if it is 2 also there, 11 also there, it is going to be very good because that will form house grouping along with that 11th house. That is always important. Sublord, of course, that is having 2 and 2. It is very good. I hope you have understood. You can see 7th lord is in the star of a planet 1597, favorable cuspal sublord key planet at the star lord, and sublord you can see favorable grouping. You can see the chain 171597 953711 35911. So good house grouping the seventh lord is giving. So that itself is strong. Similarly, forming unfavorable house grouping chain with 1, 6, 8, 12 and primary unfavorable house and Bhataka Lord also present, it will be more unfavorable. The sixth house can be taken under the unfavorable only when sixth house is considered as unfavorable house for an event. Otherwise, 6 need not to be taken. Only 8 and 12 can be taken. For example, for the event of marriage, unfavorable house, we can say it is 6th house. Unfavorable primary house. Suppose for the event of childbirth, unfavorable primary house is 4th house. So along with that unfavorable primary house and 8th house and 12th house are also playing role in the grouping. Here you can see Mercury, 2nd lord, 5th lord occupying 2nd house is good, but star level planet is having mixed with the 6 and 6 in the star level and sub level. here, CST and CSL. That Rahu, of course, this unfavorable strength is reduced by the star lord of the star lord is well and good. Now that star lord of the star lord's unfavorable 6 and 6 is further supported by the sublord 8 and 8 and 12, forming 6, 8, 12 grouping, right? So that way, unfavorable grouping along with that 6, 8, 12 or 8 and 12 grouping it is present, that is going to be more unfavorable. Along with that, for this particular lagna, if Badhaga Lord is also present, it is going to add value. Badhaga house will be active only in 8 and 12 houses are also joining hands. Trouble giving houses to the Lagna 8 and 12 are also when it is active, then only Badhaga Lord also will be active. I hope you would have understood. Now, in this step number 4, I was explaining about the all levels, top to down, each level combinedly, how we have to study, and overall how this planet is, giving its effect and result overall, what strength it is having, especially what the source planet, that first level planet, what it is having, what it is experiencing at the star level, and further decided by the sub level, that we have to study in this step number 4. It means combined level of 1, 2, 3 and steps. All these three all step number 4. So that way we can see that. Please understand in this one important point, all these step 1, 2, 3 and also 4, all this grouping what we are talking, all these levels, all only on the self-signification of the rulers. Here so far we have not discussed about the support planets and their impact along with the ruler links to the each level. They are going to be secondary. They are going to be supportive only. So they will have some impact definitely on this planet. But prior to that, on their self-signification strength, what they are having, that has to be studied. That's what we have studied. So once we studied that step number 5 and 6, that is the supports planets and their ruler link impact, all these things, then we can come to a complete strength and weakness of the particular planet. So in the next part, before going to the analyzing that on the step number 5 and 6. So far we discussed about up to step number 3 and 4. The step number 5 is talking about the supports I was telling about, and 6 is combined study of all the levels, including the support planets. Prior to that, up to the 4 steps, what we discussed about the self-signification of the each levels, planet, star lord, and star lord of the star lord, sublord we discussed. So there will be many levels having favorable, many levels have maybe unfavorable, or consequent levels may be favorable or unfavorable. By combined study, we can understand what strength. But still, for our better understanding, an easy way, for easy reference, in the next part, I will be explaining the different combinations, each level, favorable or unfavorable, what sort of impact that planet can give, so that it will give an basic idea about the impact of such combinations. After that, we will discuss about the remaining steps. I hope you have understood. Thank you.